Today's video is kind of a strange one. GearBest has sent in a quadcopter for review. It is called the JXD509G Pioneer UFO. Previously, I have reviewed a quadcopter on the channel called the JXD510G, which you would think was some kind of upgrade model. However, from what I can tell, they are pretty much the same quadcopter, other than the shape of the frame. I liked the JXD10G. You get a lot for your money, however the camera module had a weak spot with this ball style camera mount, which could be sort of rectified by adding different kinds of vibration dampening. Without that, there was a lot of jello on the image. However, I think I like the 509G better, and here's why. I'm not really a fan of the shape of the 510G at the front. They have tried to make it look like a spaceship, and in the process they made the front end very flimsy and susceptible to vibrations. I can move the plastic with my fingers. Also, you will notice that the nose of the 510G bends down. My plan was to take the camera out of this ball and somehow attach it to the nose of the quad, but that's not really possible due to this nose bending down. The camera would face the ground all the time. Whereas the 509G has a flat nose, which means that I'm going to be able to modify this camera more easily. There's no point me reviewing this quadcopter with the camera in its stock setup because it is identical to the 510G in every way, and it's going to give me a lot of vibration issues. I will cut some video in here and you can see that the jello is really bad and the footage is pretty much unusable. Let's recap what you get in the package. Both of these quadcopters cost around $80, which isn't a lot of money considering you get a quadcopter that has altitude hold, a 720p camera that records its footage as well as transmits its FPV signal to a 5.8 GHz FPV monitor. The monitor has a built-in sunshade, battery and removable SMA antenna. That is a lot of stuff. You are also given a 600 mAh one cell LiPo that connects to the quad via a JST connector, as well as two battery chargers. One is for charging the quadcopter's battery and the other is for the FPV monitor. You are also given two screwdrivers, a spare set of blades and prop protectors which screw in via some included screws. There's also a micro SD card reader and a 4GB SD card to go with it, and a plastic mount to secure the FPV monitor in place. Again, that is a lot of stuff, probably the most amount of stuff I have seen given with an RTF FPV quadcopter. The 509G comes packaged exactly the same as the 510G, which is good because there's no assembly needed at all. The props are already attached, as well as the landing gear, so the quad can be easily stored away in this box as well. The quad itself has an on and off switch, and the 5.8 GHz antenna sticks out of the back. Again, you are going to want to angle this down to get the best FPV signal. The camera module gets its power from a JST connector underneath the quad. It also receives a PWM signal from the transmitter to start and stop video recording, as well as taking a photo. The transmitter is the same as the 510G, so I'm going to borrow some of the footage from that review. The transmitter comes in mode 2 only, which is a shame, as this aircraft features spring-loaded control sticks to cater for its altitude hold feature. So I will be flying this aircraft in mode 2 only. The transmitter controls are really well labelled, with the top shoulder button giving 3 different rates. The right hand shoulder button does a 360-degree flip. Starting down this left hand side, and we have this top button which is 1 key return. In the middle we can turn the LEDs on and off. The bottom button arms the motors rather than using the conventional way of moving the sticks into the corners. Then on the right hand side at the top we have headless mode. Underneath takes a photo, and the bottom button starts and stops video recording. So that's the technical stuff out of the way. So what can I do to get rid of that horrible jello to make this a credible FPV aircraft? Well, I think that is going to be simple, hopefully. Before I start, I should mention that the camera has a fairly narrow field of view, but I found with the last model that the FPV and control range was excellent, and the narrow field of view didn't cause a problem to the FPV experience when outside in my flying field. So my plan is to unscrew this ball at the front, which should leave us with a pretty long ribbon cable to the camera. I'm going to hot glue this to the nose of the quad, which I couldn't do with the 510G due to its droopy nose. Let's go and see how that works out. So let's go for a takeoff. You do that by pressing the start button and the motors will arm. It doesn't do an automatic takeoff, this one. You have to lift the throttle up as soon as the motors start to spin. However, because it has that altitude hold mode, it does go into a nice stable hover straight away. So I'm going to go into video mode now and just look at this footage. It is incredible. There's no jello whatsoever. And I go to do a flip there because the 510G didn't seem to do flips very well at all, or rolls, but for some reason this one does. That may be down to the battery. Maybe it was more depleted the last time I tried it, but with this one it's no problem at all as I line it up for a forward flip. Just look how snappy this is. I'm really impressed with that. So I'm going to gain a little bit of height and let's go and try some FPV. So I'm looking down at the monitor now. I'm going to lift that up so the camera can see it. And I haven't positioned my antenna correctly, so I'm just going to adjust that and you'll see that the feed becomes clear. And then I'm going to flip to some onboard footage, and again, look at this. I'm really pleased with this. There's no jello at all. It is really smooth. This mod has really worked. So all you need to do if you have one of these is take that gimbal ball thing apart and just hot glue the camera lens onto the body of the quadcopter. You can see the quadcopter flying in the background there, but I'm actually flying from this monitor here. I really like that shot, and you can see there, even with that narrower field of view, I'm having no problem FPVing around this field. It is really cool. In fact, I would say that the field of view is just correct to get some nice footage without having a sort of fishbowl wide angle effect. So that's pretty good, really. So I'm just going to fly around this field and see how we get on. I'm going to gain a little bit of height here and see how it copes with the range. So I'm just going to turn it round towards myself here. Now, one thing that you need to know about this before buying it is the ascent and descent rate is really slow. On windy days, I was unsure whether it was actually climbing or descending, but it's just really slow, and I think it's fine. It always comes down, so don't worry about that, but it does take some time to come down, so make sure you have enough battery to get the quadcopter back down. But I'm flying around here. Again, I'm getting some really nice footage. We don't have any jello or anything like that. This is now a real credible quadcopter. There's a little bit of a wobble there as I face towards the sun, but the quadcopter is climbing at that point, and you'll see there that it settles down as soon as the quadcopter levels out. Now I take a quick look in the sky to see what it looks like from the ground, and it's just a little dot at this point, and I'm checking the FPV monitor at the same time as sort of flying line of sight as well to make sure that it doesn't get away from me. Again, I'm just playing around here. I'm flying backwards so that I can fly forwards and sort of get the street in view. I could have really angled the camera down a bit more. I'm so used to angling my camera slightly upwards from my mini quad, but really a slow quadcopter like this wants to be facing slightly down to the ground. So here I'm having a little bit of fun seeing how close I can get it to the camera to get a nice shot. And because it is so stable, I have no problems doing that at all. In fact, it's nearly catching my hat cam there. And just look at that, I'm able to just have small inputs and get it really close to the camera. And I'm just trying to get a nice screenshot here, so I'm holding up the transmitter at the same time. Lovely. So I'm just going to do a couple of circuits here, line of sight, just to show you how stable it is, and also how nice it is to just fly around, which it is. And yeah, I've been really impressed with this, and I think I prefer it to the 510G just because you can mount that camera up the front and get a nice result for a very cheap price. So there you go, that is my review of the JXD509G. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll put a link in the description if you wish to buy it. As always, thanks so much for watching. Please continue to subscribe. Cheers.